When I tell you this is the fourth and last time I'm gonna try to make this live, I mean that. I mean it. I'm back again. I have deleted 3 lives now. The last live I deleted, I had lipstick on my teeth, so that's information you all can just have for free. I came on this live just to talk about race, which is a subject that always I've always looked at it kind of like, I don't think like any other people look at the race issue. In that I always thought, what? I'm sorry, who's superior? And we are what now? Okay, now who established this? Because it feels like somebody's, I might be taking crazy pills because, yeah, nobody's superior to Ruby Mae Woodfall granddaughter. Okay. But I thought about then when I had my last live, I was talking about the black men in the community who are being allowed to tear it to the ground. And I was talking to my daughter today, and I was telling her, at this point, I'm not even going to put in the caveat, not all black men. Because the good black men, okay, the black men who understand the issues, those black men have a responsibility to ostracize and to marginalize the black men who are continuously doing so. It has to be a loud condemnation. It has to be a loud condemnation, or, it's going to continue. And that's my only concern, is that this continued abusive behavior towards black women is allowed to continue in the community unchecked. This abusive behavior toward the weaker people in the community, the poor parts of the country, where there's in Chicago shootings and rapings and murderings, and I used to didn't like to talk about that because we don't have a monopoly on evil by any means. History shows that is by far not the case. However, this has been allowed to happen. Now, what I wanted to come on and talk about today, this evening, is when did we have the mass healing? When did we have the tribunals? At what point were those responsible for the rape, murder, torture of millions of sovereign, free people? When were they brought to bear? When did we come to the table and say, you know what? We have some work to do. At what point did the country reconcile the horror of slavery? At what point did we sit down together and decide what portion of the produce of this country would go to black people and their generations? At what point? Hey, Barbara Sensei, hey. Oh. Do you want to come on and talk with me? Huh? The thing is telling me way better. But at what point did we have a thorough clearing out of the pus and rotten flesh of the history of this country and allow healing, true healing, to start? What point did we have that? I don't recall it. I know I know the Japanese were put in concentration camps during World War II because of Pearl Harbor, and then I'm sorry, what's the name of the camps? It's not concentration camp. They were put in, they were rounded up in the country and placed in pretty much a prison, because of Pearl Harbor. But, and then of course that was a horrible thing. And so guess what? They got, reparations. The Jewish people who had the horror of a Holocaust, and the saying goes, never forget, always remember. And they were given a whole entire country. Okay, ma'am. I would love to have a comment, just have a key on this thing. Yeah, so they had the Holocaust, which was a horrid thing, and it was just not Jewish people. All manner of people deemed unpure, handicapped people. Now, Jewish people were given a whole entire country, which it was not theirs. Now, I'm sorry. Yeah, the land had been occupied by Western countries, and they said, okay, this is the land you will have. Now, I'm not going to go into the Palestinian thing. That's a whole sticky subject right there. But I wonder why they couldn't have land somewhere in Europe. But I digress. I'm talking about, at what point were black people in the diaspora, not just in this country, but all around the world, who were colonized and enslaved, and I don't like to use the word slave referring to our people ever again. I don't want to hear that word referring to our people. I want to talk about prisoners of war, a war we did not start, a war we weren't even aware we were in. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about when we had this healing experience. We never had it. We never had a healing experience. We never had a tribunal. We never had, and all these little 2-cent apologies official from the floors of senates and this sort of stuff around the country. They can keep all of that. I need to see my money. I need to see therapists set aside from my community, paid by this government, spiritual workers paid by this government to work with us today, even today. Do you know why? I'm going to tell you why. Okay. What was passed down from generation to generation was not just the ability to thrive, was not just the ability to create in the most awful circumstances. Oh, we were passed down so many strengths, but guess what? We were trauma and tragedy and pain, and the idea that if you're surviving, that's enough, and that is not enough. So I want us to talk about what needs to happen, what really needs to happen, and I just really honestly don't see it happening. What really needs to happen is investing fully in the healing of black people in this world. But instead, what we get is continued traumatization, continued attacks upon our person by virtue of simply being black. And then the question is put forth, when are we going to move past this? There's no way to move past something that has never been truly addressed. We had dashikis, we had afros, we had African American, Negro, Black. We had all these little cute namey things that liberals do to kumbaya us into to not fighting for what is right. We had all of that, but at no point did we have an honest and true accounting of what took place in this world toward human beings. Because I put forth the question again, what does it do to a person? What does it do to a person to be taught from birth by the person who they love and cherish the most? To be taught by that person to make themselves small, to not want too much, to not hope for too much. Take what you can get and then go. That is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, people keep saying, why do we keep talking about race? Because we have not dealt with the issues. We have never had a true accounting of what went on in this country and in this world, and what is still going on in this country and this world. How dictators are being propped up in on the continent of Africa to this very day. How the Chinese people, how the government of China is basically recolonizing Africa right to this day with the help of corrupt politicians. The same is true in the Caribbean, and we know that the Haitian president was assassinated. And he was assassinated by the people that were misappropriating money instead of improving the country, putting it in their coffers. Allegedly, I don't know this to be true, but come on now. He had the nerve to want people to work to provide the work they said they were going to give for the money that they were given. Now, I don't know how trifling you have to be to take some money and not at least hit a lick at some work on a road. But that level of trifling exists in this world. So what we have is gaslighting. Is what I'm talking about also. Gaslighting. This idea that what? Everybody's okay. And you can see it in the comment section on any video addressing race. You can see it in the comment section. Here we go again. Love is love. Why are we to each his own? Okay, I totally agree with that. To each his own. Love is love. Do you? By all means, grow. Do the work to heal yourself. And that's what we've been doing, if we're going to heal at all. But the collective is still steeped in trauma. Hey, Tammy Owens. Oh my! Don't. And I see now I'm going to have to get off because see if I start crying, it's because y'all is in there and I'm having a conversation. Why am I fixing? What? Anyway, but the trauma is still here. The trauma, the belief, and the worst part, Lord, the worst part. And here is where this whole self-hate thing comes in with the black men. We don't how can I put this? Somewhere deep within us, and I'm including myself, because in doing my work on myself, I know that I had self-hate in me. Me. Who, I've grown older and wiser and understand I have many blind spots, but me had that in me, and I had it in me. So if I have it in me, I know the majority, and I'm talking about not two, not 55%. I'm talking about all upwards to 80%. I'm just throwing out numbers. I'm not. These are not statistics. I'm just saying there are black people walking around here thinking that they're okay, and they're not. And that is where those men are coming from. Those black men who have that so much hatred, they think towards black women, but no, it's towards themselves. It's towards themselves. And if we don't actually call it what it is, as Ayana says, call a thing a thing. If we don't actually do that, we can't keep, what the hell are you thinking? Do you think we honestly gonna heal properly? Do you think these ills that we are still dealing with, or ought to be sick of dealing with to this day, are going anywhere if we don't come to the table in an honest fashion? Don't come with the bull crap. I'm trying not to curse too much. Don't come with the bull crap. Don't come with the kumbaya before you done did the down and dirty work. You got to go to work on Myra's feet. Don't come to me talking about queen when you don't see yourself as king. If you're not sovereign, don't speak to me. I'm sovereign. And I don't need a title queen. All I need to be is child of God that is sovereign. So, this whole idea that we can use flowery language to spray perfume on some doo-doo, that's got to go. Because you cannot, we skipped a step. We skipped a step, see. What we should have been doing was getting down and dirty. Stop all this N-word mess. You can call me a goat if you want to. Pay me my money and get out of my face. Stay out of my business. Mind yours. Try not to kill any of my children. See, because reparations has become a dirty word. Reparation has become a dirty word, and it was deliberately made so by people who know that if we go down that road, the West would be bankrupt. So they lump that in with entitlements, welfare, food stamps, reparations, and then want to try to make it sound like a silly idea. What are you talking about? Do you know what was done on this earth? Do you know the abomination that took place on this earth? And I'm talking about this thing is some sick stuff. And I'm not going to go down the list. I'm not going to continue to perpetrate the trauma. What I'm saying is, if we don't do the work, get out of my face with the king, queen, brother, sister. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. There's nothing behind that. There's no truth in you about that. If you have not sat down and faced yourself, what you were taught, because I go back to the fact of being a young girl and just thinking my grandparents hung the moon, sewed the stars into place. And what happens? When you see them diminish themselves for people who your child spirit can see are morally and spiritually bankrupt. And then you think a child is going to go through life and not struggle behind that. That change in tone when a white person was present. That kind of that kind of a straightening up, kind of a, you know. And if you're a perceptive child, you know, not every child picks up on that. But if you're a perceptive child, well, yeah, they do. That every child picks up on it. They might not consciously pick up on it, but they pick up on it. They pick up on the fact that we are somehow not free. Somehow still not free. Our minds are still locked in. This is not new stuff I'm talking about. This is the same old stuff in the year of our Lord, 2022. It just makes you tired. It makes you tired. And all I know to do is to keep telling it on Facebook, telling it in the comment section, telling it on my lives, telling it wherever I go. It's just like, no, don't come talking to me about what we moving forward. We need to go back and pick up that stitch that was dropped to make the fabric whole. I don't understand why that's not understood. That a step was missed. A very painful step, but a very important step. We have to cut that wound open. It is rotten and full of pus. It has to be cut open, cleaned out, and allowed to heal. And that's what, it hadn't happened. I'm sorry. We have not had it happen. And I don't know how we could get to that place. How could we get, what would be, that's what I would want people to do. Maybe there needs to be an organization of some kind expressly dedicated to healing children of that Holocaust. Children of that, oh my God, oh, it is an abomination before God. It stinks in his nostrils. What happened to us? So the perpetual victimhood, excuse my French, but fuck that. We're not victims. What we would call it, we want outside, but we got work to do. That's all. And it lies in truth. It lies in truth and love, and that truth is going to be a painful and hard truth. We got too busy and distracted. Also, once we were, well, I wrote also I want to talk about, I wrote about the newly freed prisoners of war that were placed in a concentration camp in Natchez, Mississippi. 20,000 newly freed prisoners of war were then re-imprisoned and then starved to death. And the Native American population called the area where those bodies lie, where wild peach trees grow, the Devil's Punch Bowl. And they call it that because the bodies fertilize the wild peach trees, and they don't eat those peaches, and they tell everyone else don't eat the peaches because they are cursed. Now, do you think we know how many newly freed prisoners of war of so-called slavery. Do we know how many actually were just killed just wholesale before they could get to safe places? And then if anything was enforced and they built their towns and managed to start, becoming autonomous, do we know how many towns were actually burned to the ground because they were actually thriving? Do we know this information? What the fuck? Why don't we know? There are books written giving an account of various atrocities. But I'm talking about what has this government, who is wholly responsible, who inherited the responsibility, what have they done to study this matter and then move forward on how to make it whole? It can't be made whole, but the effort needs to be made. I don't know of a study that was done. Slave owners were reimbursed for their loss. Their so-called delusional, the evil delusion that they owned someone. They because they took a loss, you see. But since you ain't gonna work for us for free under threat of terror and murder, why then, well, we're just gonna kill you. Starve you out, steal from you some more by saying that you can stay on the land, but you have to work it, and then we'll pay you. Then you take their money because of expenses you come up with. This sort of old sick and evil bullshit. But then, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying not to start. I get real passionate. Y'all, it's a hot mess. It is a hot mess because I was starting off also to say that who decided that we needed to integrate? I'm still confused about that, and I'm not being disingenuous here. I'm confused about it for real because I'm like, okay, separate but equal wasn't working because the resources were not there. And why weren't the resources there? I don't understand why it all of a sudden became about integration as opposed to doing the work, providing assistance and reparation to assure that the descendants of the prisoners of war from that era were sufficiently. I just still don't understand how come it was all about we got to come sit beside you or live beside you. I still don't understand that. It didn't have to be. In other words, I mean, yes, just get rid of those laws saying you can prevent me from anything. Get rid of those laws. Stop with that bull crap. Because you're talking about I can't drink out your water fountain, but it wasn't too long ago I was breastfeeding your child and warming your bed. But now it's just a horrible thing for you to drink water behind me out of a water fountain. So yeah, those laws, yeah, the Jim Crow laws, get rid of those. But why did we have to integrate the schools? I can understand for a period of time forcing them to feed you at the lunch counter as opposed to walking around to the back like you was a dog. I can understand getting in somebody's behind that. But why? Yeah, I demand that you don't tell me where to sit on this bus if I didn't pay to get on it. I'm not going to the back to get a hamburger that I'm paying for. I'm using the toilet. I'm not going out behind the store to use the ditch that done been dug out there deliberately to make me feel like an animal. I'm not doing that. Let's get rid of that. Let's make it look like the Middle East in this so and so to get rid of that. See, because the nonviolent movement was a blessing for this whole entire world. Because if we were like anybody in the Middle East, this whole situation would be a whole lot different than what it's looking like. But see, everybody's thinking now in this mindset that they are one day going to be a billionaire, just like Kanye. And so there is no will to actually do what is necessary. So people are hiding in these designer clothes and and all on social media and these phones and all this sort of thing, thinking, they're going to be the next, not realizing that within you is poisoning, toxic stuff going on in you by virtue of your ancestry. And you up here talking about some shoes Kanye made. It's crazy. Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome came up in my mind also. And I'm on my phone doing the live because my computer is evil and I rebuke it. But Stockholm Syndrome is the what happens. Stockholm Syndrome is when a kidnapped person starts having affection for their kidnapper and will fight their family member, frankly, over the person that's causing them harm, over the person that put their lives in danger. That is very much, I can't think of Joy DeGruy, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Now, she is a black woman who did this on her own. She had to fight to do this for her PhD, to get her doctorate. So go to YouTube and look up Joy DeGruy, post-traumatic slave syndrome. She really did. And I said that but I'm talking about the American government. There was no tribunal, nothing. And we think that we're supposed to go on and it'd be okay. And which brings me back to the man at the little group thing that I went to. White man asked me, what are we going to do about the ghetto? The ghetto is not my problem by virtue of my skin. The ghetto is, if we want to be real about the ghetto is solely the property of your people. We know how the ghetto got here. You want to get rid of the ghetto? Do the work. I need to see some therapists specially trained to go into the schools, especially the lower class, the poor schools, not lower class, excuse me, the poor schools, the poor communities. I need to see spiritual people being paid. I need to be seeing ordained ministers in each religious faith. I need to see them being trained to go in after the study is done, to train to go in and do the work, to roll up their sleeves and do the work, to be paid to live in those areas and do the work. I need to see all of that. That's what a real change is. When we get that, when we get the resources to have people go in to call tribunals, to call people in, to go over the study. We need that. We need that. So, I'm gonna wrap it up. Oh, my cousin's showing up and showing out. Huh? Bridget here too. She here. I don't care what nobody say. She here. I had a good time, y'all. And y'all out here, let me tell you something. Hey, Cole Robinson. Hey. Let me tell y'all something. Miss LaBarbara, let me tell you about how you out here in this gym. I'm like, I'm gonna go out here every time I see it. I'm like, don't go now. But the fat is still piling up on me, girl. And hey. But anyway, thank y'all so much for coming to just say hey to me while I was on here talking, because I'm not gonna stop talking about it somewhere, writing about it somewhere. And anyway, so y'all keep on having all y'all fun and reaching all y'all goals and just enjoying y'all lives, because it's a hot mess out there. All right, y'all take care.